Day and Night, a Dvar Torah for Parashat Tzav. In Judaism, the day begins at night. Armed with this truth, I used to coax my dorming students, unsuccessfully mind you, to go to bed at a sane time. And no, 3 o'clock in the morning is not a sane time. But in the temple, this doesn't seem to be the case. All practical sacrificial work happens almost entirely during the day in the temple. And during the night, we have only the finishing touches. Acts such as smicha, leaning on the designated korban, slaughtering, throwing the blood, etc., were only valid during the day. Nighttime was meant only for acts that have already been started, like the continual burning of the sacrifice on the altar. Or in the words of the Sifra, "How therefore do I keep the verse all night? Let them be set on the altar during sunlight, and they shall burn on the altar all night." This kind of tampers with the message I was trying to convey to my students, so it's very fortunate that the first verses of our parasha set the world back to the straight and narrow, and in describing the sacrifices from the viewpoint of the priests, as opposed to the viewpoint of the owner of the sacrifice in Parashat Vayikra, the commandment states, "Command Aharon and his sons, this is the doctrine of the Olah, it being the raised offering that burns on the altar all night until morning, and the fire of the altar will burn within it," thus starting also this commandment at night. And here comes the obvious question. If indeed, as we just said, the work of the priests in the temple is mostly done by day, and at night it's only an afterthought, why do the verses dealing with the sacrificial work open with what happens at night? Ibn Ezra approaches our problem with the help of teachings from the verse from Tehillim, Sur Merah Va'aseh Tov. First know what to keep away from, and only then deal with what you must do. And here is a hint that the sacrifice will not be brought at nighttime, rather it will burn on the fire of the altar all night. I.e., the night is mentioned here only to let us know that no sacrifices were brought at night. And I hope you've enjoyed Ibn Ezra's commentary, because from now on, we enter the Drash district, territory less visited by me. Rabbeinu Bechaye ben Asher shares two explanations with us. First, in an ideal world, there would be no need for sacrifices, even Olah sacrifices. Although Olah sacrifices are not brought for practical sins, they are brought for sinful thoughts. The sacrifices are brought by day, just like most sins are committed by day. But the thought about sin, contemplating sin, that occurs at night. That's why before engaging in the work of the Korbanah during the day, it's necessary to mention the night from which the mess originated. Rabbeinu Bechaye's second commentary is reminiscent of Dan Hick's song, "How Can I Miss You When You Won't Go Away?" He writes about it at length, but the essence is, the temple closes at night to teach us derech eretz, how we should act. Don't overstay your welcome and leave before your loved ones can't bear your presence any longer. Rabbi Ephraim Seba's commentary in his book Tzoror Mor is somewhat similar to Rabbeinu Bechaye's first explanation, but a bit more forceful. It implies that if this sinner knew how to distinguish between good and evil, there would be no sin for which a sacrifice was needed. Or in the words of Shmuel HaNavi, which are repeated over and over by the later prophets, Hineh shmoa mizevach tov, leakshiv mechelev elim. Do not sin, an act reminiscent of the night, and you will not have to make a sacrifice. Rabbi Shlomo Ephraim Lonshitz, in his commentary Kli Yakar, addresses our question only indirectly. While answering the question, why is the word tzav used in this commandment, he says that things that happen at night need additional prompting because nighttime is more prone to laziness. And I would add that the same reason could be given for night being mentioned before day. And last, there's Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch's extremely long commentary that explains that although in the temple day usually precedes night, which symbolizes the contrast between the Israeli faith, which is based on face-to-face meeting, and idolatry that requires blind faith, this is not to say that night has no place. The purpose of the night, as symbolized by the burning of the sacrifices, is to enable reflection and examination of the deeds that have already been done. This interpretation does not directly explain the need to start with the night, but if I'm allowed my humble opinion, Even though night comes after day in the work done in the temple, when it comes to the purpose of the sacrifice, the reflection, this is better done by night, or in the words of Reb Shlomo Elkabetz, Sof Maaseh b'machshava tchila. And to conclude, it's true that I strayed a bit from the classical sources of the Pshat this week, but if the Israelites could leave Egypt into the desert, I too can leave my comfort zone on Pesach Eve and travel the realms of Drash. Did you enjoy this video? If so, press the like button and send it to a friend. I'm Dovi Holtz, one who loves Tanakh.